The one and only debate between Donald Trump and Kamala Harris is on tomorrow, and let's take a quick look at the ABC moderators. David Muir and Lindsay Davis are hardly impartial. Here is just a little taste of their anti-Trump bias. These are comments from less than a month ago from Davis linking Trump to a white supremacist cause.
Former President Donald Trump is expected to go campaign in Howell, Michigan tomorrow. Many people are aware that a month ago in Howell, KKK protesters marched in the streets with the white robes on and suggested that they support Donald Trump. I'm curious if you make anything about that connection and him going in particular to Howell tomorrow.
Joining me now is Newsweek Senior Editor-at-Large and Article 3 Project Senior Counsel Josh Hammer. Josh, that was a bizarre question from an ABC anchor. Will tomorrow's debate be a level playing field?
Probably not, if I had to guess. I mean, ABC News, of course, would be the same American media outlet that hires George Stephanopoulos to anchor its Sunday news show. The people will probably recall that George Stephanopoulos was one of the preeminent Clinton campaign staffers, along with Jimmy Carville, back in 1992. I mean, he is about as partisan a Democrat as it gets in all of the mainstream corporate media. This is not an objective outlet at all. Actually, Rita, if I think back, it was on the precipice of the 2020 presidential election. Wisconsin has become one of America's foremost swing states. It was an ABC News poll just a handful of days prior to the 2020 election that showed back then that Joe Biden was allegedly up by 17 points on Donald Trump in Wisconsin. The final margin of victory ended up being less than 1 point. So, I mean, there's definitely something in the water at ABC News. Fortunately for Donald Trump, you know, if he plays his cards right, it doesn't really matter, I think, how the moderators approach this. So, look, the moderators, Kamala Harris, Rita, they're going to do everything they can to steer the conversation to two topics in particular. They're going to do everything they can to steer the conversation to so-called our democracy, because they paint Donald Trump out to be a historical threat to the Constitution and all that we stand for. The near assassination of him a month and a half ago has not slowed them down at all. They have that issue, and then they have the abortion issue. If Donald Trump can quickly respond to those two and then pivot to all the other issues, namely immigration, the economy, inflation, and crime. Those are really the four issues right now. Those are the four issues that the American people tell pollsters they care most about, and Donald Trump is more trusted on each of those four issues. So if he can quickly pivot, so for example, on the question of our democracy, which I'm sure is going to come up at some point, all he has to do, Rita, is look into the camera and very straightforwardly and clearly say, there is one person on this stage whose Department of Justice is trying to incarcerate the opposition. And guess what? It's not me. And then immediately pivot to the economy, immigration, and so forth. If he can do that, he's going to be in great shape, I think.